The lights of the Imperium flicker in the darkness, distant and cold, a fractured remnant of what was once a shining beacon to the galaxy. The Emperor's grand vision, his divine purpose, is now nothing more than a tangled web of rumors, shattered truths, and unanswered prayers. On the surface, it's said that the Emperor's divine body lies entombed within the Golden Throne, his mind lost to the endless warp storms that ravage the galaxy. But what if the truth is far darker than the Imperial cult dares to admit? What if the Emperor's lost vision still lingers, rotting away in the bowels of the Imperium, buried beneath centuries of propaganda and bloodshed? Do you truly know the fate of the Emperor? Or are you, like so many others, merely blind followers of a decaying myth? Before we delve deeper into this grim mystery, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. The secrets of the Imperium run deep, and only those with the courage to seek the truth will truly understand the cost of the Emperor's fall. Join us as we peel back the layers of this haunting narrative. The hum of the Golden Throne is a sound that reverberates through the heart of Terra, a ceaseless mechanical pulse that signals the endless preservation of an emperor long dead. Yet, despite the perpetuity of the throne, despite the brilliance of its design, the emperor himself is not truly alive. His body lies in a state of preservation, but his soul, what remains of it, is trapped, suspended in agony between the mortal realm and the warp. The Emperor's reign ended in blood and fire, and yet his final moments have become an enigma, sealed away beneath layers of myth and deceit. The Golden Throne, that monument to a once glorious humanity, is more curse than blessing, a device that keeps the Imperium from spiraling into utter darkness, but one that exacts a terrible cost. The throne's mechanism is an intricate, labyrinthine structure of impossible design, powered by the combined energy of thousands of psychers who are sacrificed daily in its operation. Their souls, unwittingly bound to the Emperor's purpose, are drained, their lives spent to keep the dying light of humanity flickering. Each life offered up in this grisly ritual is another thread pulled from the fabric of human potential, their suffering unseen by the masses who bow to the Emperor's name. No one, not even the Adeptus Custodes who guard his tomb, can say with certainty whether the Emperor even still lives. His physical form is preserved, but what's left of his mind? Is he a husk of what once was, or is his spirit still conscious, tormented by the cruel reality of his fate? The truth is buried beneath centuries of imperial propaganda, veiled in the mythos of divinity. Yet, as much as the throne holds the Emperor's broken form, it also holds the Imperium itself. Without the Golden Throne, the astral tides of the galaxy would consume the Imperium in a matter of days. The Emperor's psychic presence, however fragmented, keeps the Astronomicon alive, guiding the fleets of humanity through the warp. The vast legions of the Imperium rely on the light of the Astronomicon as their one beacon in the dark. Without it, the Imperium would be torn apart by the predations of the Orcs, the Necrons, the Tyranids, and countless other horrors. Every ship that ventures into the void, every soldier that takes up arms in defense of humanity, depends on the fading glow of a once powerful emperor, one who is not truly dead, but not truly alive. The cost of this preservation is one that cannot be fully understood by any but the High Lords of Terra, those who walk the gilded halls of the Imperial Palace. The machine that maintains the throne is not a simple device. It is a technological marvel, an amalgamation of forbidden science and dark sorcery, bound together by the Emperor's own psychic might. It requires constant maintenance, constant vigilance, and constant sacrifice. It has been this way for millennia, and it will continue until the stars burn out. No one dares to question the throne's true nature for fear of what might be uncovered. For some, it is a symbol of divine power, but for others, it is a reminder of the brutal price of immortality, a price that no one, not even the Emperor himself, ever truly intended to pay. Even so, there are whispers that, in the deepest recesses of the Imperium, there are those who seek to unlock the secrets of the throne. The Adeptus Mechanicus, the followers of the machine god, have long studied the Golden Throne, their curiosity growing ever more insistent. They have seen what the throne does to the psychers who feed it their souls, and some among them question whether this endless cycle of death can be broken. Can the Emperor be freed from this torment? Or is the throne a final prison designed by a mind long past the point of redemption? Some believe that the key to humanity's salvation lies not in the Emperor's physical form, but in the unraveling of the very machine that sustains him. Others believe it is an impossible dream, one that should never be pursued. To tamper with such power would be to risk not just the Emperor, but the very foundation of the Imperium itself. As the centuries pass, the question persists: what is the cost of the Golden Throne? And more importantly, what happens when the Emperor's light finally fades, leaving nothing but the ruin of a once proud galaxy? It is a question that no one dares to answer, for fear that the truth will be too much to bear. The Golden Throne is the last thing standing between humanity and the abyss, but its curse is undeniable, one that binds the Imperium to a grim fate, locked forever in the shadow of a man who no longer exists in any true sense. And yet, the Imperium marches on, its heart still beating to the pulse of the Golden Throne, waiting for the day when its fate will finally be sealed. In the dimly lit halls of the Imperial Palace, the whispers of the past echo, forgotten by most but ever present in the minds of those who dare to look beyond the surface. These are not the whispers of heresy, but of those who seek truth, truths buried beneath layers of propaganda, masked in the sacredness of ritual and devotion. For centuries, the Golden Throne has stood as both a beacon and a prison, a symbol of the Emperor's eternal sacrifice, and yet, in its grim reality, a reminder of the futility of immortal power. It is here, within these hallowed chambers, that the truth of the Emperor's fall is slowly being unraveled. The Adeptus Mechanicus, those faithful servants of the Omnissiah, have long revered the throne as a relic of the divine. Yet within the walls of their sanctum, a different conversation is beginning to take place. There are those among them who have come to question the morality of the Emperor's preservation, the very foundation of the Imperium. They know the truth that few others dare admit. The Golden Throne is not a tool of salvation, but a device of eternal torment. The Emperor is not preserved in glory. He is trapped in endless suffering, kept alive by a system that consumes the lives of the innocent and binds the souls of thousands to his decaying body. The psychers who serve the throne are not the blessed martyrs of the Imperium. They are the broken, the desperate, the ones who never ask to be part of this grand cosmic design. They are the victims of a machine that devours their souls, one by one, day after day, with no hope of reprieve. This grim reality is known only to those who walk the inner sanctums of the Mechanicus, those few who have managed to piece together the Emperor's true fate, and yet they dare not speak it aloud for fear of the consequences. To question the Golden Throne is to question the very legitimacy of the Imperium itself. It is to suggest that the Emperor, the eternal symbol of human strength and divinity, is not the god they believe him to be. It is to suggest that the Emperor was, in fact, a flawed man, one who failed in his vision, whose final act was one of desperation, not divinity. But the whispers do not cease. In the darkness of the Mechanicus forges, in the quiet corners of the Adeptus Custodes watch, in the minds of those who still remember the Emperor as he once was, there is a growing sense of dread. The Imperium is not a shining city upon a hill, as the ecclesiarchy would have the people believe. It is a rotting corpse, held together by a lie, and at its center lies the Emperor, still chained to his throne, still trapped in an unending cycle of pain. The question arises once more. What happens when the Emperor's light fades, when the last psyker sacrifices their soul to keep the throne running, when the power of the Astronomicon wanes and the Imperium falls into chaos? There are rumors, whispered in the shadows, that the Mechanicus is not content to merely preserve the Emperor's body. Some of the most radical factions among them seek to understand the throne's true nature, to dissect its mysteries and unlock its secrets. The Golden Throne is no mere machine. It is an enigma, a puzzle that stretches back to the very origins of the Imperium. Some believe that within its labyrinthine corridors lies the key to humanity's future, a way to transcend the Emperor's failed vision and break free from the cycle of endless war. Others fear what might happen if that truth is uncovered, for what lies beneath the surface of the Golden Throne is not merely the Emperor's decay, but a darkness that could consume all of mankind. Yet, despite all the intrigue and the dark promises of hidden knowledge, one truth remains certain. The Emperor's sacrifice has damned the Imperium to an endless existence of pain, war, and suffering. The Golden Throne has kept humanity alive, but it has also trapped it in an eternal prison. There is no escape from this fate, not for the Emperor, and not for the people who serve him. In the eyes of the Imperium, the Golden Throne is a symbol of salvation. But in the hearts of those who truly understand its purpose, it is nothing more than a tomb that holds both the Emperor's broken body and the galaxy's last hope, a hope that fades with every passing day. And yet, even as the galaxy burns, as the Imperium fractures under the weight of its own decadence, there are those who still believe. They still believe that the Emperor's light can save them. They still cling to the idea of unity, of humanity standing together beneath the Emperor's banner. But in their hearts, they know the truth. The Golden Throne is not salvation. It is a curse. And as long as it endures, so too will the suffering of mankind. There are nights when the stars above Terra seem to grow dimmer, their light swallowed by the suffocating expanse of the void. The Emperor's light, once so bright and full of promise, has long since become little more than a flickering candle in the dark. And yet, the people of the Imperium still cling to that dying flame, willing to sacrifice anything, even their souls, to keep it burning. They believe that the Emperor's will is still the guiding force of humanity, that his spirit, trapped within the Golden Throne, still watches over them as they march to war. But the truth, as it often does in the Imperium, remains buried beneath layers of deceit and self-imposed blindness. The Adeptus Custodes, those who guard the Emperor's sacred body, stand vigilant, their golden armor gleaming in the darkness of the imperial palace. They are the Emperor's most loyal servants, the living embodiment of his will. Yet even they are haunted by the knowledge of what the Golden Throne truly represents. They are not mere guardians of a god. They are the keepers of a tragic relic, a symbol of a once great humanity now crumbling into dust. The Custodes, in their eternal vigilance, have watched as the Imperium decays from within, as corruption seeps into the highest echelons of power, and as the once proud Imperium becomes a shadow of its former self. It is said that the Emperor, in his final moments, had glimpsed the future of humanity, the future that awaited it after his fall. And in that vision, he saw nothing but endless war, endless suffering, and the slow decay of everything he had fought for. He knew that the Imperium would not survive, that humanity would eventually be consumed by the forces it had once sought to control. And so, in his dying breath, he made the ultimate sacrifice. He sealed himself within the Golden Throne, binding his spirit to the Imperium, so that humanity might live on in his name, even if it meant that his vision would never be fully realized. But that sacrifice has come at a terrible cost. The Emperor's death was not a singular event. It was a moment of profound spiritual and cosmic disruption. The galaxy itself trembled in the wake of his fall, and what followed was an era of unrelenting darkness. The age of strife, a time of unimaginable chaos and destruction, tore through the galaxy, leaving only ashes in its wake. And though the Emperor's light still guides the ships of the Imperium, it is not the same light that once burned brightly. It is a pale imitation, a ghost of the man who had once led humanity to the stars. As the centuries pass, the true cost of the Golden Throne becomes ever clearer. The Imperium, built upon the bones of countless worlds and civilizations, is dying. Its leaders, blinded by their own ambitions, struggle to maintain control, while the citizens of the Imperium continue to suffer in silence, unaware of the true price of their existence. The common folk, those who toil in the manufactorums and on the agri-worlds, do not know the true nature of the Emperor's sacrifice. They see the Golden Throne as a symbol of hope, of protection, but they do not understand the toll it takes. The galaxy has become a place of endless conflict. The Imperium is locked in a constant war of survival against the myriad threats that assail it. Orcs, Necrons, Chaos, the Tyranids, and more. The Emperor's dream of a united humanity has long since fallen apart, shattered by the violence and division that now defines the galaxy. The forces of chaos, in particular, are a constant reminder of the Emperor's failure to cleanse the galaxy of the warp's influence. And even the loyal servants of the Imperium, those who would die to defend the Emperor's name, are not immune to the horrors that have spread like a disease across the stars. The Golden Throne, which once symbolized the unyielding strength of the Emperor and his vision for humanity, now stands as a tomb that holds the corpse of a man who failed to protect his people. The throne, once a place of power, has become a symbol of weakness, a monument to the cruelty of immortality. It holds within it the Emperor's broken body, yes, but also the shattered dreams of a galaxy that might have been. The Imperium, in its blind devotion to the Emperor's memory, continues to march toward its inevitable doom, each step taken in the name of a fallen god. And yet, there are those within the Imperium who still believe. They believe that the Emperor's light will one day shine again, that the Imperium will rise from the ashes of its past and reclaim its rightful place as the master of the galaxy. They believe that the Emperor's vision, though incomplete, is still the only hope for humanity's future. But in their hearts, they know that the Emperor's fall is inevitable. His light is fading, and with it, the very soul of the Imperium. What remains now is a question that cannot be answered. When the Emperor's light finally fades, when the last breath of his spirit is extinguished, what will become of humanity? Will it rise from the ashes of its past, or will it be consumed by the darkness that the Emperor failed to conquer? The Emperor's vision, once the guiding light of humanity, now feels like a distant memory. It was a vision of unity, a dream of a galaxy united under the banner of reason, progress, and the unyielding strength of human will. Yet, as the centuries have passed, that vision has fractured, shattered under the weight of its own contradictions. The great ideal of a unified human race, forged by the Emperor's will, has given way to a galaxy consumed by war, greed, and endless suffering. The dream, so beautifully constructed in the Emperor's mind, has unraveled before our very eyes, leaving only the ruins of his ambition. The Emperor's vision was not born in a single moment, but in the culmination of countless years of study, strategy, and spiritual insight. It was a dream that sought to bring order to a chaotic galaxy, to raise humanity above the petty squabbles that had once defined its existence. He believed in the potential of the human race, in its ability to reach the stars and claim its rightful place in the universe. But the Emperor's vision was flawed, just as he himself was flawed. The reality of the galaxy proved far harsher than even his boundless intellect could have predicted. In the early years of the Imperium, the Emperor's dream was a beacon of hope. The Great Crusade, his sweeping campaign to unite the fragmented worlds of humanity, was a time of great ambition and purpose. The Emperor sought to rid the galaxy of the forces that had divided humanity, the petty, corrupt rulers of the past, the alien threats that lurked in the shadows, and the dangerous forces of chaos that sought to warp humanity's very soul. Under his guidance, humanity flourished, reaching worlds and colonies that had once been beyond its reach. But as the Emperor's crusade continued, something began to change. The darker aspects of human nature, those that the Emperor had hoped to suppress, began to emerge. The very people he had sought to save began to turn against him, driven by their own ambition and desire for power. The traitor legions, once his most loyal warriors, began to rebel, driven by their own flawed understanding of the Emperor's will. They believed that they had been betrayed, that their father had turned away from them in their time of need. The seeds of division, planted in the early days of the Imperium, had begun to sprout, and soon the Great Crusade gave way to the heresy. A time of unimaginable destruction, where brother fought against brother and entire worlds were consumed by the flames of war. The Emperor's dream of unity had become a nightmare, one in which the very people he had entrusted to protect humanity were now the ones threatening its survival. The traitors, once his greatest champions, now sought to overthrow him and reshape the galaxy in their own image. They rejected his vision, believing that the Emperor's ideal of human unity was a lie, a falsehood that could never be achieved. Instead, they embraced The chaos that had always lurked in the dark corners of the galaxy, seeking to harness its power for their own purposes. But even as the heresy raged, even as entire legions turned against him, the Emperor's belief in humanity did not waver. He believed to the very end that humanity could rise above its flaws, that it could overcome its darkest impulses and forge a new future. And so he made the ultimate sacrifice, giving his own life to seal the fate of the Imperium. But what the Emperor failed to realize, what he could not foresee, was that the very act of his death would be the catalyst for the Imperium's descent into stagnation and decay. In his final moments, the Emperor had glimpsed the future of humanity. He had seen that the Imperium, once a shining symbol of hope, would become a hollow, bureaucratic machine, a rigid, unyielding force that would crush all individuality and freedom in the name of order. He had seen that the dream of a united humanity would be corrupted, twisted by those who sought power for its own sake. And yet, even in the face of this grim reality, he had chosen to sacrifice himself, to bind his soul to the golden throne and ensure that the Imperium would continue to exist. But what he could not have known, what he could not have anticipated, was the cost of his decision. The Emperor's death, rather than bringing about a new age of prosperity, had set humanity on a path of endless war. The Imperium had become a bloated, corrupt institution, rife with internal strife and infighting. The vision of unity had become a farce, a mockery of the Emperor's grand design. The wars that raged across the galaxy were no longer about survival or progress. They were about power, about control. The ideals that had once driven humanity to greatness had been buried beneath layers of dogma, bureaucracy, and blind faith. As the Imperium crumbled under the weight of its own contradictions, the Emperor's vision became increasingly distant, a shadow of what it had once been. The belief that humanity could rise above its flaws, that it could unite under a single purpose, had been lost. The Imperium was no longer a shining beacon of hope. It was a decaying corpse, held together by the Emperor's dying light. And yet, even as the galaxy plunged into chaos, there were those who still clung to the remnants of the Emperor's vision. They believed that his dream could still be realized, that humanity could still overcome its darkest impulses. But as the years turned into centuries, and as the galaxy continued its endless march toward destruction, that hope grew ever fainter. The galaxy that the Emperor sought to unite is no longer the one we live in today. The once gleaming star systems, connected by the bonds of reason and collective purpose, have long since fallen into the grip of chaos and division. The Emperor's dream of a unified humanity, guided by the light of reason and progress, has fractured beyond recognition. What remains now is a galaxy teetering on the edge of ruin, a place where war is the constant backdrop to every day, where the cries of the innocent are drowned beneath the roar of artillery and the whispers of dark powers. As the Imperium falters, its leadership grows ever more distant from the realities of the galaxy. The High Lords of Terra, those who rule from the throne of power, remain blind to the suffering of the common people, hidden away in their gilded halls as the wars rage on below. They are the embodiment of the stagnation that has gripped the Imperium since the Emperor's death. Their endless bickering, their petty squabbles over power and resources, have all but ensured that the dream of a united humanity is nothing more than a distant, unattainable memory. The Emperor had sought to create a future where humanity was not beholden to superstition or the influence of the gods of the warp. His great crusade was meant to sweep aside the old ways, to create a galaxy in which humanity would stand on its own, free from the dark forces that had long ruled over them. But in his absence, the Imperium has been swallowed by the very thing he sought to eliminate. The ecclesiarchy, the religious institution that venerates the Emperor as a god, has risen to power, turning the Emperor's ideal of rationalism and unity into a distant, heretical myth. The Emperor's once proud legacy has been twisted into a tool of oppression, a means by which the Imperium's rulers maintain control over the masses. The Emperor's vision, noble in its beginnings, was ultimately doomed to fail because it was not fully understood by those who inherited it. His ideal of unity was not just the unification of humanity, but the elevation of mankind to a higher state of being, a state that transcended the limitations of the material world. But in the chaos that followed his death, his vision became nothing more than a hollow slogan, used by those in power to justify their actions. The dream of a united humanity became a tool of oppression, as the Imperium's leaders used the Emperor's name to perpetuate their rule over the masses. In the far-flung corners of the galaxy, far from the gilded halls of Terra, the Emperor's dream still lingers in the hearts of those who remember what humanity could have been. There are those who have not forgotten the Emperor's vision of a galaxy united, those who still believe in the possibility of something greater. These rebels, these outcasts, reject the stagnant Imperium and seek to forge a new future for mankind, one that is free from the shackles of the past and the corruption that has poisoned the Imperium's heart. They are few in number, but they are the last hope for the Emperor's dream. The most dangerous of these rebels are those who once served the Emperor directly. His primarchs, the mighty sons who were created in his image to lead the Imperium's armies and conquer the stars. Many of them fell during the heresy, seduced by the promises of chaos or driven by their own egos to betray the Emperor. But some, like Robauta Guilliman, have returned, their once dominant vision now filled with a deep understanding of the Emperor's failure. For Guilliman, the return to the Imperium is not a triumphant march, but a solemn one. He sees, as few others do, the fractures in the Imperium's foundation, the rot that has set in over the centuries. He sees that the Emperor's grand vision is not just lost, but corrupted beyond redemption. As Guilliman walks the halls of the Imperium once again, he is not the hero of a new age. Instead, he is the bearer of a burden, the knowledge that the Emperor's dream was never meant to be. Humanity cannot be united under a single banner, for its greatest strength lies in its diversity and its flaws. It is a harsh realization, one that would break the spirits of lesser men, but for Guilliman, it is a truth that must be faced. The Emperor's vision was noble, but it was never fully realized, and now the galaxy must move forward without it. The Imperium, in its current state, is a fractured, bloated empire that no longer serves the purpose for which it was created. The Emperor's dream of a rational, unified humanity has been twisted into an empire of dogma and brutality. The legacy of his idealism is a hollow shell, and the Emperor's fall was not just the death of a man, but the death of an idea. What remains now is a galaxy divided by war, superstition, and corruption, a place where the Emperor's dream is no more than a faint memory, obscured by the fog of war and the twisted rituals of a broken system. As the Imperium teeters on the brink of annihilation, the question becomes not whether the Emperor's dream can be restored, but whether humanity can survive without it. The Emperor's vision may have been a dream of unity and peace, but the galaxy has changed, and humanity has changed with it. The light of the Emperor may have once guided humanity, but now it is little more than a flicker in the darkness, a flicker that threatens to go out at any moment. Beyond the gilded halls of Terra, beyond the reach of the Emperor's dwindling light, the galaxy continues to burn. The Imperium, once a glorious monument to human ambition, now stands as a fractured empire, a vast, decaying shell held together by the thinnest of threads. The Great Crusade, a time when humanity reached for the stars with purpose and unity, now feels like a distant memory, a cruel reminder of a galaxy that could have been. The Emperor's dream of a unified humanity has dissolved, leaving behind only the remnants of his once great vision, scattered across countless war-torn worlds. It is in the fringes of the Imperium, on the forgotten worlds far from Terra's gaze, that the true cost of the Emperor's death is most keenly felt. These are the worlds where the common folk live and die in the shadows of the Imperium's great machinery, worlds where the banner of the Emperor is little more than a distant, meaningless symbol. Here the people suffer not just from the horrors of war, but from the crushing weight of bureaucracy and neglect. The vastness of the Imperium ensures that its leaders, ensconced in their palatial fortresses on Terra, are blind to the suffering of their subjects. The soldiers who fight in the name of the Emperor are often little more than cannon fodder, their lives expendable in the pursuit of an ideal that has long since lost its meaning. On these forgotten worlds, there is no grand vision to strive toward, no sense of purpose beyond survival. The Emperor's light is a faint, fading glow on the horizon, distant and unreachable. Yet, even here, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, there are those who still cling to the ideals of the Imperium. They are the last remnants of a once proud human race, struggling to survive in the wreckage of the Emperor's shattered dream. They still believe, against all reason, that the Imperium is worth saving. They are the soldiers who fight for a cause they barely understand, the civilians who endure hardship and oppression with the hope that one day the Imperium will be restored to its former glory. But in their hearts, they know the truth. The Imperium is no longer the shining beacon it once was. It is a decaying empire, held together by fear and the iron fist of its rulers. The promise of a unified humanity is a lie, a myth perpetuated by those in power to justify their rule. The Emperor's vision of unity and strength has been corrupted, twisted into an instrument of oppression. The people of the Imperium, the soldiers and the citizens alike, have been left to suffer under the weight of a failed dream. Even the mighty legions of the Space Marines, once the Emperor's greatest champions, have been reduced to shadows of their former selves. The Loyalists fight on, but they are no longer the shining paragons of the Emperor's will. They are warriors without purpose, soldiers who struggle to understand the ideals they were once so fiercely dedicated to. The traitor legions, meanwhile, have embraced the chaos they were once meant to destroy, their twisted visions of power and domination driving them further into the abyss. It is a galaxy of broken promises, of shattered dreams, and of the remnants of a once great civilization struggling to hold on to the past. The Emperor's death marked the beginning of the Imperium's slow decay, a decay that has spread to every corner of the galaxy. The great crusade of humanity has become nothing more than a series of endless, grinding wars. The planets that once served as the bedrock of the Imperium's power are now little more than battlefields, their populations decimated by the endless conflict. The Imperium, in its desperation, has turned inward, focusing all its energy on maintaining control, on preserving the illusion of unity, while the galaxy outside continues to spiral into chaos. In this grim future, the question remains, can the Imperium survive? Can humanity endure in a galaxy that has long since lost its way? The answers are as elusive as the Emperor's vision itself. The people of the Imperium still cling to the hope that the Emperor's light will one day shine brightly again, that his dream will be restored. But in the deepest recesses of their hearts, they know that it is a hope that may never be realized. And yet, despite everything, there is still a flicker of defiance. There are those who refuse to accept the Emperor's death as the end of humanity's story. They are the rebels, the outcasts, the last remnants of a lost idealism. They know that the Imperium cannot survive on its current path, and they will do whatever it takes to bring about change. These outliers, scattered throughout the galaxy, are the final hope for humanity's redemption. They are the ones who still believe that the Emperor's vision is worth saving, that his dream of unity can still be achieved, even if the Imperium itself must be torn down in the process. The galaxy may be fractured, but there is still a chance, albeit a small one, that the Emperor's dream can be restored. And in the darkness of this broken Imperium, the flicker of that dream burns brighter than ever before. As the Imperium drifts further into the abyss, whispers begin to emerge from the shadows, murmurs of a truth so horrifying that even the highest lords of Terra dare not speak it aloud. The Emperor, the very cornerstone of humanity's survival, is not the figurehead that history has painted him to be. The myth of his divinity, the tale of the unyielding God-King whose light once guided humanity, is no longer the truth. It is a narrative carefully constructed, stitched together by those who have long since abandoned the ideals the Emperor once embodied. And as the galaxy crumbles, that truth begins to seep through the cracks of the Imperium's grand illusion. There are those within the halls of power, hidden in the dark corners of the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Inquisition, who claim to know the true nature of the Emperor's sacrifice. They whisper that the Emperor did not, as the ecclesiarchy asserts, ascend to godhood in his final moments. No, the Emperor's death was far darker, far more complex than the imperial cult would dare admit. Some say he was not a divine being at all, but a man driven by pride, fear, and ambition. A man who failed to see the depths of the corruption that would ultimately consume his vision. His fall was not a tragic accident, nor the consequence of a great betrayal. It was a carefully calculated act, a final, desperate attempt to prevent the galaxy from spiraling into total annihilation. This is the most terrible of truths. The Emperor's death was not the heroic sacrifice of a god, but the final, desperate act of a broken man who knew the galaxy was beyond saving. The Emperor understood, as few others did, that his dream could not come to fruition, not because of the traitors who had turned against him, but because of the very nature of humanity itself. His grand design was flawed from the start, built upon the assumption that mankind could be united, that it could overcome its baser instincts and rise above the chaos of the universe. But the Emperor, with all his knowledge and power, failed to understand one simple truth. Humanity was always doomed to repeat its mistakes. The Emperor's failure was not a singular event, nor was it a failure of will. It was the culmination of millennia of choices, of actions and decisions that brought the galaxy to the precipice. Even now, the Imperium continues to teeter on the edge, held together by the false hope of the Emperor's return. The Golden Throne, that unholy device that keeps the Emperor's broken body alive, is not a symbol of humanity's strength. It is a reminder of the tragic truth that the Emperor failed, and that the Imperium, for all its power, is nothing more than a dying empire clinging to the ashes of a dream. Yet, in the deep recesses of the Imperium, there are those who know the truth and dare to speak it. The Inquisitors, those shadowy figures who manipulate the fates of entire worlds, have long suspected the Emperor's true nature. They have seen the cracks in the Imperium's facade, the signs that the Emperor's vision was never fully realized. And now, in their desperation, they are seeking something beyond the Emperor's light. They are searching for a new path, one that will lead humanity to its salvation, though they know it may not be the salvation that the Emperor envisioned. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, there are still those who believe that the Emperor's death was not the end, that his spirit still lingers within the warp, waiting to be reborn. These are the heretics, the rebels who cling to the hope that the Emperor's true power lies not in the Golden Throne, but in the remnants of his soul. But to follow this path is to risk everything, to cast aside the very foundation of the Imperium. For what is left of the Emperor is not a god. It is a ghost, a shadow of the man he once was, lost in the chaos of the warp. The most terrifying truth is that humanity may never know what the Emperor truly was, what he truly intended for the future of mankind. The great vision he held for humanity has been lost, swept away by the tides of war and corruption. The Golden Throne is not a source of salvation. It is a prison, both for the Emperor and for the Imperium itself. And as the Imperium's light continues to fade, there is a growing realization that the true cost of the Emperor's fall has yet to be fully understood. For all the grandeur of the Imperium, for all its monuments and legends, the truth is far simpler and far darker. The Emperor was not a god, but a man who, in the end, saw his vision for humanity crumble, who knew the galaxy would fall into ruin no matter how hard he tried to shape it. And when the end came, he made a choice. Not for the galaxy, not for mankind, but for himself. He chose to save what was left of humanity, even as he sacrificed everything he had built, knowing that it would not last. The Emperor's legacy is not one of triumph, but of bitter defeat, a defeat that will echo through the ages as the Imperium crumbles, one broken world at a time. As the Imperium spirals into the depths of its own despair, there is a question that haunts the hearts of the few who still seek the Emperor's true will. What was the Emperor's final wish? Was it to preserve humanity, to maintain the Imperium as the last bastion of his vision? Or was it something far darker, a wish that transcended his original ideals, forged in the crucible of his ultimate failure? The Emperor's body, entombed within the Golden Throne, continues to burn with the cold fire of his broken soul. It is said that his spirit, though fractured, lingers still, casting a long, terrible shadow over the galaxy. The Adeptus Mechanicus, with their unyielding devotion to their machines, claim that the Emperor's soul has been bound to the throne. His final wish, they say, was for humanity to endure. But even within the hallowed halls of Terra, whispers linger. Whispers of a different kind of wish, a different kind of truth. Could the Emperor have known that the Imperium was a lie? Could he have understood in his final moments that humanity's future lay not in the false hope of unity, but in its very imperfections? There are those who claim that the Emperor's last wish was not to preserve the Imperium at all, but to free humanity from its self-imposed chains. These voices are few, dismissed as heretics by the ecclesiarchy and traitors by the Imperium's leaders, but they are no less fervent. For them, the Emperor's final act was not one of blind loyalty to his failing empire, but a desperate, tragic plea for freedom. He had come to realize the true nature of the Imperium, the sheer magnitude of its corruption, its stagnation, and the inescapable weight of its endless war. Perhaps in the final moments before his body was sealed within the Golden Throne, the Emperor sought to do something that no one at all, had ever dared to dream. He wished for the Imperium to fall, to crumble under the weight of its own contradictions, and for humanity to rise from the ashes, free from the dogma that had shackled it for millennia. This is the deepest, most unspeakable truth of all, that the Emperor, in his final moments, sought to undo the very thing he had built. He had seen the Imperium for what it truly was, a stifling, oppressive empire built on false ideals, maintained by the blood of innocents, and held together by a decaying belief in the Emperor's own divinity. The Golden Throne, with all its horrific power, was not the Emperor's gift to mankind. It was his penance, the final prison he had built to atone for his vision's failure. In his death, he hoped not to sustain the Imperium, but to free humanity from it. And so, the Emperor's last wish is a paradox, one that may never be realized, one that may never be understood. For those who still cling to the myth of the Emperor as a god, it is a wish that cannot be allowed to exist. The Emperor must remain the eternal protector of mankind, his body preserved in the throne, his soul bound to the fate of the Imperium. To acknowledge his final wish would be to acknowledge that everything they have built, everything they have fought for, is a lie. It is a truth too terrible to accept, too deep to be uncovered by the masses. And so, the Imperium continues, locked in its cycle of war and suffering, its heart still beating to the pulse of the Golden Throne, even as the light of the Emperor fades. But there are others, those who dare to see the truth, those who question the sanctity of the Golden Throne. They whisper of the Emperor's last wish in secret, among themselves, in the darkness. They know that the Imperium cannot survive, as it is, that the galaxy cannot endure under the crushing weight of its own myths. These rebels, these seekers of truth, understand that the Emperor's fall was not the end of humanity, but the beginning of something far greater. They believe that humanity must be freed from the chains of the past, that the galaxy must be rebuilt from the ground up, without the Emperor's false hope and the shadow of his broken dream. But to follow this path is dangerous. It is a path that leads to the very heart of the Imperium's power, to the heart of Terra itself. To challenge the Emperor's legacy is to risk everything: The wrath of the ecclesiarchy, the might of the Adeptus Custodes, and the endless hordes of the Imperium soldiers. And yet, in their hearts, these few rebels know the truth. The Emperor's last wish was not for the preservation of the Imperium, but for its destruction and for humanity to rise anew, free, unshackled, and unburdened by the weight of its past. As the galaxy continues to burn, as the Imperium descends further into darkness, the question remains: will humanity ever understand the Emperor's true, final wish? Or will the Imperium, like the Emperor himself, continue to decay, locked in the grip of a vision that has long since failed? The answer lies not in the pages of history, not in the edicts of the ecclesiarchy, but in the hearts of those who are willing to seek the truth, no matter the cost.